Welcome to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of our flagship stations, 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV, on Comcast, Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. Where you can also find us in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and on City Cable 15 of Southfield. Join us on Channel 10 in Waterford every day on the Media Network of Waterford and live to tape on Channel 10 in Lake Orion and Orion Township on Orion Neighborhood Television, otherwise known as ONTV. You can also find us on the radio in the Birmingham, Bloomfield, and Troy areas on the Biff Radio Network, 88.1 WBFH, the Biff, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District. This week, live to tape on that network. They have original programming, special programming this week, throughout the entire week that will be preempting us, but they will be broadcasting the Megacast later on in the afternoons. Find us online on our Facebook pages at Civic Center TV 15 and at Lakes FM, on our website, civiccentertv.com, and beginning at 11 o'clock for the Michigan Megacast on My Michigan TV or MyMy at mymytv.com, where you can also learn more about downloading their free MyMyTV apps for your smartphone and smart TVs. All that information's on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can also find all of our programs, the full episodes, and each individual interview on demand as well. Then let's head over to our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, where we have up-to-date links to information from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division, your expert resources, reliable resources on everything that has to do with the evolving COVID-19 pandemic, so that you can stay up to date on everything you need to know about COVID-19, including the spread of COVID in your community, precautionary tactics such as masking and social distancing, as well as vaccinations and booster shots as well. Also on our coronavirus page at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, we feature articles from many journalistic outlets throughout the state of Michigan in order to keep you updated on COVID-19 and other stories making headlines across the Great Lakes state. Our top story today is from the Detroit Free Press. The Mackinac Bridge has reopened after weather conditions caused closure earlier on this week. The Mackinac Bridge has reopened after it was closed for several hours on Thursday due to weather conditions. Icy conditions have plagued the bridge connecting Michigan's peninsulas for the past day, according to the Mackinac Bridge Authority. High winds between 35 and 49 miles per hour were reported on Wednesday. The bridge was closed for most of the day on Thursday due to weather conditions and falling ice before reopening about 10:30 p.m. on Thursday evening. That full article, as well as supporting articles on this topic from the Detroit Free Press on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Also making headlines over there from the Detroit News. The avian influenza is confirmed in wild birds in these Michigan counties. Highly pathogenic avian flu has been confirmed in wild birds in at least 3 areas in eastern Michigan, the state's Department of Natural Resources, or DNR, said in a report on Thursday. The virus was identified in free-ranging Canada geese and tundra swans from St. Clair County, and in Macomb County, snowy owls, as well as a mute swan in Monroe County, according to an official statement. The confirmations followed tests of 6 Canadian geese and 2 tundra swans collected last week at St. Clair Flats State Wildlife Area, according to the release. The mute swan was found on March 15th. The geese, swans, and owls all were infected with highly pathogenic avian influenza subtype H5N1. The findings followed officials with the United States Department of Agriculture and the Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development, confirming the bird flu last month was detected in a non-commercial backyard flock of birds in Kalamazoo County. Quote, "This confirmed positive finding of highly pathogenic avian influenza in wild birds prompts several steps that are informed by Michigan's surveillance and response plan for HPAI and wildlife," and closed quote, said Dan Eichner, the director of the Michigan DNR. The DNR and MDARD are working in that plan with other experts and stakeholders and taking every advantage of every available resource that aims to limit the spread of highly pathogenic avian influenza, and closed quote. In addition to the geese and swans, avian influenza can infect free-ranging and domestic poultry such as chickens, turkeys, and quail, the DNR said. Quote, "Ducks and geese are considered carriers. However, geese generally do not pass it on," and closed quote. The department also said in its report on Thursday. Authorities last week said nearly 7 million chickens and turkeys in 13 states have been killed in 2022 due to avian flu. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that the recent bird flu infections in flocks do not present an immediate public health concern. No human cases of the avian influenza viruses have been detected in the United States. While it can be transmitted to humans, it is unusual, and it's typically due to close contact with infected birds. Spread of the disease is largely blamed on droppings of wild birds such as ducks and geese, which often show no signs of illness. But studies suggest the virus can be tracked into secured chicken and turkey barns, on equipment, workers, mice, small birds, and even dust particles. Infected wild birds have been found in at least 21 states, and the virus has been circulating in migrating waterfowl in Europe and Asia for nearly a year. State and federal officials remain hopeful that the disease won't spread as extensively as during an outbreak in 2015 that resulted in the deaths of 50 million chickens and turkeys, causing egg and meat prices to soar. Bird flu hit more than 200 farms in 15 states, costing the federal government about $1 billion and the poultry industry an estimated $3 billion. The Michigan Department of Agriculture and Rural Development urged poultry farmers and poultry owners to increase their own biosecurity precautions, quote, by minimizing the number of people coming in contact with birds, isolating birds from wild birds whenever possible, and disinfecting hands and clothing after coming in contact with poultry, state officials said on Thursday. Meanwhile, the DNR said it has canceled the roundup and relocation of Canada geese for the remainder of the year. Quote, the DNR will make limited exceptions in approved situations where there are elevated human health and safety concerns, officials said on Thursday, continuing on. Sites that have received roundup permits will be refunded their application fees, and closed quote. The DNR and others, including the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Veterinary Services and Wildlife Services, are also partnering to conduct avian influenza surveillance. Residents who notice the deaths of 3 or more free-ranging birds should report that to the Michigan DNR by calling 517-336-5030. Again, residents who notice deaths of 3 or more free-ranging birds in a given area should call the DNR at 517-336-5030. 517-336-5030. Lastly, making headlines at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus from Bridge, Michigan. Michigan's independent citizens redistricting commissioners have reversed their own pay raise. What a surprise. They can't make a sound decision. Bowing to public and political backlash, Michigan's redistricting commissioners on Thursday voted to rescind a pay raise they gave themselves in February after they had completed new congressional and legislative maps. The 13-member panel voted to restore their own pay to $55,755 per year, reversing an earlier 7% raise. Their salaries are again set at 35% of the governor's salary. Quote, certainly there's been a number of public comments that weren't very complimentary, in close quote, of the initial pay raise. Commissioner Stephen Lett told reporters after the meeting. Lett continued on saying, quote, we took those into consideration. I think all the commissioners gave it a second thought. End close quote. Brittany Kellum, a Democrat, was the only commissioner on the bipartisan panel to vote against the pay change. Members had considered reversing the pay increase at an earlier meeting, as they also continued to debate when and how to disband until new political maps needed to be redrawn again in 10 years after the next United States Census. The commission completed most of its work by late December, but there are 2 ongoing lawsuits challenging the legislative and congressional maps they created, which are set to be used for the first time in Michigan's fall elections. As Bridge, Michigan has previously reported, the voter-approved constitutional amendment that created the citizen-led redistricting commission in 2018 did not include a clear expiration date for the panel. Members considering whether to disband are expecting a legal opinion from their attorneys by April 8th. If the commission does choose to disband, Commissioner Pay would stop 30 days later, said Edward Woods III, Communications and Outreach Director. Quote, no one's trying to be here in perpetuity. No one's trying to waste taxpayers' money, but we're trying to be responsible to the Constitution, in close quote, Woods said. Woods continued on saying, quote, we want to be done. Don't mistake it, but we want to be done correctly, in closed quote. Along with ongoing lawsuits, the commission needs to pay an all outstanding bills before its work is complete, Woods said. Current budgeting and funding from the Michigan legislature will, quote, possibly, in closed quote, last through April, outgoing Executive Director Sue Hammersmith told reporters. But the panel is preparing to ask for additional allocation, Hammersmith added, noting that the commission could run into a, quote, unquote, shortfall because of ongoing litigation and attorney's fees associated with, quote, defending the maps, in closed quote, in court. The commissioner's map-making process has been a first for Michigan, where lawmakers had long drawn their own political boundaries, leading to what a federal judge in 2019 called gerrymandering of, quote, historical proportions, in closed quote. The commission's maps have faced legal challenges, too. An ongoing GOP lawsuit alleges that the congressional maps do not adhere to equal population rules, and other alleges state house maps are not fair to Democrats. The pay raise debate resolved Thursday reinforced the public nature of the new commission, said Woods, the communication and outreach director. Quote, it really speaks to what I like to say is the greatest civics lesson in the world, a Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, because it's truly government for the people, by the people, and they actually listen, and you can trace how they listen through their decisions. Yes and no on that quote. That full article from Bridge, Michigan, as well as their supporting materials that are about the previous increase of the pay from this commission, as well as their now reversal of that 7% pay increase on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, with links to all of those other articles as well. Finally, before we take a break, on Wednesday of this week, we spoke to Sally Wenzel, co-founder of environmental activists Rallying to Help, or Earth, West Bloomfield, in regards to a controversy surrounding a proposed and approved development of a mental health facility on the campus of Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital via Henry Ford Health that may have significant impact on the local environment and wildlife. In the spirit of fairness and journalistic integrity, we reached out to officials at Henry Ford Health for a chance to respond via a full-length interview or a short interview or even just a statement. They responded by sending us the following statement from Henry Ford Health regarding response of Earth West Bloomfield to a proposed mental health facility's potential environmental impacts. This is the statement. Quote, the need for mental health services has reached crisis levels across our nation. We are honored for the opportunity to increase access to those services and are eager to make this a reality for communities that we serve. When we acquired the land in the 1980s, we committed to being good neighbors and mindful stewards of the land. Over the years, we have taken a thoughtful approach to our developmental plans. Our newest development meets all the state environmental regulations, and of the 40 acres rezoned for this project, we are only using 15. Robust conservation efforts associated with this project include the permanent preservation of more than 17 acres, or 42% of the property, of woodlands and wetlands through a conservation easement, and positioning the building in order to minimize the impact on natural features. Throughout this process, we have partnered closely with community leaders and neighborhood associations. These conservations resulted in reducing the height of the building from 3 stories to 2 stories, limiting parking and access to the front of the building in order to preserve a substantial wooded area, and creating a tree buffer between the building and the adjacent neighborhood. The building will be built to achieve LEED or LEED certification for environmental sustainability as well. We look forward to sharing our progress in the coming months. That is a statement from Denise Brooks Williams, Senior Vice President and CEO of the North Market for Henry Ford Health. That will be posted in the description of our interview from Wednesday with Sally Wenzel from Earth West Bloomfield on our website, civiccentertv.com/earthwb. civiccentertv.com/earthwb, where you can view that full interview that I had with Sally Wenzel here on the Oakland County Megacast from earlier on this week, as well as the statement in response from Henry Ford Health as well. All those articles from today's edition of the Megacast on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as well as those ever helpful links to accurate information on COVID-19 from the CDC, the NBHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. We have a great program ahead on this Friday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Coming up next, we'll talk about road construction and other projects with Craig Bryson from the Road Commission for Oakland County, followed by Janine Whitfield from the Heidelberg Project in downtown Detroit at 10:40 a.m. That's all coming up next. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
The weather is getting warmer. It looks like the winter season is in the proverbial rearview mirror, but what will very soon be in the view of your literal rearview mirror are those pesky orange traffic barrels, as it's construction season here in the state of Michigan. Joining us now to talk about some projects in Metro Detroit and in Oakland County is Craig Bryson, Senior Communications Manager at the Road Commission for Oakland County. Craig, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tyler. Good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you with us. Let's begin talking about some of the newer projects that will be beginning in this spring and summer season in Oakland County in particular. One of those is Orchard Lake Road from 13-mile to 14-mile road. That's going to begin in just about a week. What is that project? How will it impact traffic, and what's the projected outcome?
That's a very large project. It's about a $7.3 million project. That is basically a total resurfacing and partial reconstruction of Orchard Lake Road between 13 and 14. So it kind of breaks down into three sections. The section from the lower two-thirds, from 13 mile north about two-thirds of a mile, is going to be completely resurfaced. Then we'll build a roundabout at the Orchard Lake Plaza driveway. And then the section north of there to 14-mile road will be reconstructed as a divided boulevard. So that's going to provide significantly improved traffic flow, improved safety, and we think improved access to the businesses and residential neighborhoods along that section.
There are also signs saying that 14-mile road is going to be undergoing some scheduled work between Orchard Lake and Farmington. Is that a road commission project?
It's not. That's a City of Farmington Hills project, but that was, I believe, expected to start today. I haven't been out there, so I don't know if it actually has started yet. But that will be closing 14-mile road between Orchard Lake and Farmington, overlapping our project.
And so when you have that those city projects, because there's a difference between cities and townships and villages and what responsibilities they have for their roads. When these road projects that are done by cities are completed, how does that affect, especially if they're crossing major thoroughfares that are under county jurisdiction through the Road Commission, how does that affect then the Road Commission's operations of those roadways and maybe even subsequent projects to match the quality of roads or the design of those roadways?
Well, that's a great question. We work very closely with our partner communities. I think sometimes there's a perception that we all just kind of randomly do these things, but we actually do work closely together, and we make sure our projects match our engineers, talk to the community engineers and vice versa. And in this case, it's actually sometimes preferable to have projects happening at the same time, rather than if you stagger them, you would have major road closures in that area 2 years in a row. This way we get it all done in 1 year, and we get two great new roads out of the process. So there is a lot of coordination, a lot of communication that goes on.
And so when just circling back to some of the projects you spoke about earlier. One of those is the 13-mile and 14-mile on Orchard Lake Road, which will be beginning soon. You mentioned there's going to be a roundabout project into there, and roundabouts, we've seen them become much more common over the past decade or so in Oakland County and really throughout the state of Michigan. Those do end up being pretty major projects for those roadways because it's affecting an entire intersection. It's affecting 4 different routes, as well as the lead-in to those routes for changing of lanes, for changing of signage, certainly the design of those roundabouts. Just how long is the process of going into that design, doing the research that's necessary to understand the traffic flow in the current setting of a road versus in whatever design A, B, or C, whichever is chosen for that roundabout project may be chosen in the future? What sort of planning, how extensive is that before you actually announce that you're going to close down a road or be limiting traffic in a road in order to do these projects?
Great question. And again, I think people sometimes think that we just come up with these on the spur of the moment and decide to do them. This project was in the works for, at least 10 years, I believe. We've been talking with the community, working on this, coming up with the design. And the way it works is we first recognize that there's a need for something to be done. Then we'll begin to think about what the potential alternatives could be, identify some possible alternatives, look at the costs of those, begin looking for funding sources, because these are very expensive projects, then select a final process, in this case, with input from the community officials, the businesses along there. And then we begin to plan construction, which that planning for the construction in and of itself is at least a year or 2 out from when construction actually starts. So it's a in a big project like this, it's a multi-year process to get to the point where we are starting this coming Monday.
We're joined by the Senior Communications Manager at the Road Commission for Oakland County, Craig Bryson, with us on the Michigan Megacast. More information at rcoc.org to keep up to date on construction projects in Oakland County. And so, Craig, it seems like in Oakland County, especially over the past decade, certainly in the last few years, as we've seen more of these roundabouts go into play, that roundabouts are the way of the future in designing intersections, at least in Oakland County. From your consultation from the Commission's consultation with neighboring counties and their road commissions, with Michigan and with the state of Michigan, and really with other experts in this particular field throughout the country, are roundabouts the way that we're going to be designing our intersections across the board generally in the future? And if so, what is the rationale behind that?
Yeah, and absolutely, from our point of view, absolutely. Now, not all road agencies are as on board as we are. The Federal Highway Administration is a huge proponent of roundabouts. Macomb Roads is a big proponent, Washtenaw Roads. Wayne County to the south has not yet kind of embraced the roundabout, but many road agencies across the state have. And the reasons are twofold. First and foremost is safety. Many of the traffic fatalities and the serious injuries we see in urbanized areas are at the busy intersections, and they happen because 2 things: either somebody has a head-on collision, or they have what we call a T-bone collision, where they're turning left and get broadsided by an oncoming car. And if you think about it, a roundabout physically eliminates the possibility of either of those 2 types of crashes. Now, what we do sometimes see is a slight uptick in minor crashes, side swipes, or slow-speed rear-end collisions. Those generally will dent a little bit of metal, but people will not get injured. So what we see is with roundabouts, we've virtually eliminated traffic fatalities at those intersections and dramatically reduced the serious injury crashes, potentially up to about 90% reduction in serious injury crashes and fatalities. So that's amazing. There's very little else we can do as a road agency that would have that kind of impact on safety. So that's number one. Number 2 is traffic flow. Engineers calculate that a roundabout will improve the amount of traffic going through an intersection by about 30 to 50% without widening any of the roads leading into the intersection, just by replacing a signalized intersection with a roundabout. And that makes sense. If you think about it, at a signalized intersection, 50% of the traffic is stopped at any given time, right? So with a roundabout, traffic is flowing continuously in all directions, and you get more traffic through there. And so it does help to eliminate or reduce congestion.
We're joined by Craig Bryson, Senior Communications Manager at the Road Commission for Oakland County, joining us on the Megacast. And so other projects going on in Oakland County out in the Waterford area, for those that are joining us on the media network of Waterford on Channel 10. Pontiac Lake Road and Airport Road. What is that road construction project? Is that an Oakland County project, and what will be going on in that area?
Let's see. Let me check. Pontiac Lake Road. I hate to say this, I'm going to have to get back to you on that one. I don't have that one on the list I have in front of me. That may be a simple resurfacing job. But I don't have that in front of me. I have to get back to you on that. But we do have a lot of projects in the greater West Bloomfield area that we're doing this year. Some of the other examples are Orchard Lake Road between Middle Belt and Old Telegraph, doing a major resurfacing and a little bit of widening there. Pontiac Trail between Green Lake and Haggerty, starting April 18th, we're going to completely resurface that road, and that road will be closed as well. We're coming back to the Union Lake Road culvert, and I think we talked about this last year. We're replacing the Union Lake Road culvert just south of Wise Road. That's going to start April 25th, and that road will be closed as well for that project. And then we've got a lot, again, this year, a lot of simple overlay resurfacing projects, which may be what the Pontiac Lake Road project that you're referencing might be.
And so, Craig, we're joined by Craig Bryson. He is the Senior Communications Manager at the Road Commission for Oakland County, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. In the past, we've spoken to you and to others in different various state and county agencies about staffing issues. There have been issues across different industries, of course, during the pandemic, especially over the last year or so, as businesses have begun to reopen, as people who were either laid off or had left their jobs were eligible to be re-entering the job market. What's the status with your organization at this time, especially as these construction projects are beginning, and if there are mounting staffing issues, you would imagine that would delay some of these projects or stretch them out a little bit longer?
Well, right now we're not seeing that there'll be any delays. Most of the construction projects are actually done by contractors that we hire. And I'm sure that some of them are having some labor problems, but none of them have gotten to the point where they've told us they can't meet our deadlines, and they're still bidding on the jobs, they're still accepting them, and they're still telling us they can go ahead and meet our deadlines. So at the moment, we seem to be in good shape. We did have a little bit of challenge late last year in getting snowplow drivers for the winter, but we came up with a program where we ended up training some employees to get their commercial driver's license ourselves, which is something new for us, and that worked out very well, and we were able to fill most of our positions and able to get through the winter, fortunately.
We're joined by Senior Communications Manager Craig Bryson from the Road Commission for Oakland County with us on the Michigan Megacast. On that note, as the weather is getting warmer now, this week is going to be quite warm in comparison to last week and the last few weeks. Of course, even with that, we had snow fairly recently, just over the weekend and late last week. We had some snow here in southeastern Michigan. So for your organization, knowing that we're only in March, we're only approaching the beginning of April, the winter season in Michigan can go on for a very long time. Just how long is an organization like the Road Commission for Oakland County prepared to go out and tend to the roads for snowy and icy conditions that are characteristic of winter, even as we approach spring?
We are prepared at least through the end of April. We have seen some pretty serious snowstorms historically in April, so while we don't want that, it's not impossible. So we are prepared for that. Typically, by the time we get to the end of April, it's pretty unlikely we'll get anything more than that. But we can always ramp up if we have to into May. Hopefully, that would not be the case. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of winter still coming at us this year.
More information on the Road Commission for Oakland County's website, rcocweb.org. That is rcocweb.org. We're joined by their Senior Communications Manager, Craig Bryson, on the Michigan Megacast. Craig, just another few minutes with you before we'll say goodbye at this time. Is there anything else in Oakland County or in surrounding areas through partnerships or through state agencies that you've communicated with that people should be aware of as they get out on the roads and as the weather improves and more people then are more regularly driving?
Well, two big issues we've been seeing lately, and I'm sure you're familiar with these, or your viewers are: potholes and gravel roads. And we continue to be out on overtime. We're staying late again today to continue to tackle potholes. We've been in on the weekends and doing extension of shifts every day, roughly in the evenings, to get as many potholes as we can. But we are still in that cycle of freeze-thaw, which is the ideal time for the formation of potholes, and we're still seeing a lot of them. So we appreciate the public's patience as we do everything we can to address that. That same weather cycle is causing a real tough time on the gravel roads. And again, we're trying to do everything we can right now on the gravel roads. Some of them, it's tough until the frost comes out of the ground and the ground thaws out, and then those roads will stabilize. Right now, we're seeing a lot of very unstable gravel roads. Again, we're grading and doing what we can, but there's limited things we can do on gravel roads at this time of year. So again, we thank the public for their patience as we get through these challenging times for our roads.
Craig, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tyler.
Whether you're the city, the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
As partners working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is a source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sophia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
72.7% of high school students get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. This can cause pain, obesity, and can very negatively affect your mental health. When you have a consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, you get sick less often, lose more weight, and have better relationships with those around you. For more information about the dangers of sleep deprivation, go to sleepfoundation.org. This message is brought to you by the WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
It's the Great Lakes water. And so
What people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes. They stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Joining us now from the Heidelberg Project in Detroit is the president and CEO of the organization, Janine Whitfield. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, pleasure having you on the program. For those that may not be familiar with the work that the Heidelberg Project does in Detroit, tell us about the organization, kind of its origin story, and the work that it's currently doing now in Detroit.
Well, the Heidelberg Project is an outdoor community art environment, one of a kind, located in the heart of an East Side neighborhood in Detroit. The way I describe the Heidelberg Project is imagine turning down a city block and all of a sudden the street explodes with color, with found object art created in various vacant lots throughout the city block, and a few houses that are wildly decorated. For example, we have one known as the Polka Dot House or the Dottie Waddy House. We have another one known as the Number House, and then we have several smaller houses, like there's the Dog House, there's the Cathedral, and the idea really is to use art as a catalyst to bring hope, attention, and new economic vitality into a community. So that's what you would see when you enter Heidelberg Street. And as you continue to drive down the street, you're going to be introduced to our campus. We call it our campus, where it's our headquarters, and an artist guest house where we do exhibitions and where our staff resides. And I think the Heidelberg Project in Detroit is indicative of what Detroiters do, and that's innovate. And so you won't find anything like the Heidelberg Project in any other part of the country or the world. We are actively engaged in art and education. So we have programs in K through 12 schools. And we also have an artist in residency program where artists contribute to the natural site itself, but they also contribute to or contribute by through exhibitions within our indoor space. So yeah, that's the Heidelberg Project pretty much in a nutshell.
More information on the website, heidelberg.org. That is heidelberg.org. And they are also one of nearly 300 charities and nonprofits in the Metro Detroit area and in the city of Detroit that are supported by Share Detroit, that platform online, sharedetroit.org, sharedetroit.org, or heidelberg.org for more information on the Heidelberg Project. We're joined by President and CEO Janine Whitfield with us on the Michigan Megacast. And so where did this idea come from? Where did this concept, this project, and this city block that is being used as an art piece, as a visual medium, and as an outlet for Detroit to give its art identity a vision in the city and also to the greater world? Where did that vision come from? Where did this project begin? And really, why was this started?
Well, the Heidelberg Project is the brainchild of artist and founder Tyree Guyton, who actually grew up on Heidelberg Street. That Dottie Waddy House, for example, has been in his family since 1947. And let me just throw in this little fact too. Very few people know this, but former White House correspondent Helen Thomas actually lived on Heidelberg Street. And the area and the community itself is rich. It's rich in that there's been several cultures that have inhabited this older East Side area of Detroit. So, the street name is named after, or the organization is named after the street, which is the Heidelberg Project on Heidelberg Street. And of course, that's a German name. But it is a brainchild of Tyree, who grew up on that street. And it's a real definition, I think, of community engagement, because there is no greater example of authentic community engagement than a man who was born and raised in that neighborhood on that street and continues to impact the community with art and installations. So that is how it started. And the way the artist describes it is that he looked outside his home 35 years ago and he saw blight. And blight had become a way of life for the people in the community. He wanted to change that. And the way in which he went about doing that was the only way he knew how, which was through a paintbrush or with a paintbrush. And one house became two, and before you knew it, the street had exploded with a cacophony of color and art installations, but all made from found materials. And that's significant because what it demonstrates is that many times our communities can be discarded and people can be discarded. So the artist is picking up these things that have been discarded, dusting them off, adding color, and then you have this wonderful explosion.
We're joined by Janine Whitfield, the president and CEO of the Heidelberg Project, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. Learn more information on their website, heidelberg.org. They have a number of different ways that you can get involved and a number of different programs also, including the Heidelberg Arts Leadership Academy that really focuses on engaging youth in the city of Detroit and giving them an extracurricular opportunity that engages them in their education, engages them in their city, in their home, and also engages their mind and lets them develop not only their identity, but the identity of Detroit as well over time. Tell us about this Leadership Academy and the kind of different programs that are available through this that enrich the lives of kids in Detroit.
Well, we've had art programs for children from the very beginning of the Heidelberg Project, and it's interesting to see how many of those kids are now in their 30s. But currently, our Heidelberg Arts and Leadership Academy works with K through 12, but primarily we work with middle school and mostly high school students. And the idea is to expose children. Well, first of all, let me just take a step back and say, one statistic that we're not really, we don't really think about is the lack of preparation when kids graduate high school and they go to college. It's like a shock, and it's like a great gulf in between those two things. So one of the programs that we're doing is career preparation, and we're exposing children or young people to ideas of careers in many fields, and not all of those fields mean they have to go to college. Of course, we encourage that, but there's also different trades and different things like that. So what we do is we expose them to various people that are working in various fields of the art, in addition to the art and creativity on Heidelberg Street. And then we try to match them up with an individual that's working in that particular field and give them some exposure and real life experience. So they do internships in addition to their learning with the Heidelberg Project. It's a little tough right now because of the pandemic in school, but I think that what we're experiencing and having the kids come to our headquarters and working with a smaller number, but we're still having a great impact. We've impacted over, 300, 700, 1,000 kids probably by now.
And not only are you engaging these kids through these programs directly, but also through the classroom. What sort of options are available for educators to include the Heidelberg Project in their curriculum and help engage students in the classroom as well?
Well, first of all, we have a wonderful children's book that we wrote, and there's two children's books: Magic Trash, which is amazingly and wildly popular. And then You're at Nut Yug, which is actually Tyree Guyton's name, scrambled, and it is his alter ego. It's a true story of him when he was a kid. at about 12 years old. So these books are online and available. And we also have an educator's kit online where teachers can, download materials and share our work and what we have done and integrate it into their curriculum, which is also amazing. I mean, I'm talking about we have tapped into schools around the world, not just around the country. And this is these are the tools that we try to equip teachers with so that they can develop their own curriculums, and many of them have. It's really it's exciting that there's so much learning to be done, and not just on the K through 12 level, also on the collegiate level. We have taught different aspects or perspectives of our work, the Heidelberg Project, which again is an original to Detroit. And so art is a social practice, and the whole concept behind creative placemaking, all of that is coming through the Heidelberg Project after 35 years.
We're joined by Janine Whitfield, the president and CEO of the Heidelberg Project. They share Detroit-supported charity and nonprofit. Joining us on the Megacast. More information in a couple of places. ShareDetroit.org is where you can go to find a lot of information on the organization and direct ways that you can help them at this time, and also learn more about their programs and help them and get involved as well by going to their website, heidelberg.org. We're joined by Janine Whitfield, the president and CEO of the Heidelberg Project, on the Michigan Megacast. So tell us about Heidelberg 3.0 and how people can support the efforts as your organization continues to develop over time, supporting financially, but also through volunteerism and other ways.
Yeah, so, it's funny. People think we're a lot bigger in terms of our internal staff than we are. We're 6 staff, but we have a host of volunteers and supporters that help us accomplish a lot of the work that we do. The concept behind Heidelberg 3.0 really is very simple. It is the transformation of an arts installation created by one man into an arts community that is activated by many. So when you think about it in general, you're really talking about how the Heidelberg Project is now starting to transition into a real arts community, not just being in a community, but also impacted by artists. For example, we have one of our most recent artists in residence is a woman who wraps trees, and it's just so beautiful. The residents and the way in which artists are integrated into the Heidelberg Project has to make sense. It has to be a contribution. And as they're contributing, they're also engaging with the community, learning from the community, giving to the community. So you can go to Heidelberg and see art installations now created by different artists. So we are, in fact, in that process of engaging with a different artist. I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. I gotta turn it over.
So all that information is on their website at heidelberg.org if you'd like to learn more information. Please continue.
So the idea is that you can see installations now on the site that are created by more than just Tyree Guide. And that's the way we want it. We had to fight for this, though. And I want to say that true innovation takes time. And so this whole idea of now Tyree decreasing as more artists are increasing is also timely because the artist is getting older, right? But then so he's looking and facing his own mortality and looking at how he's going to pass the baton. But I think the greatest piece that helps define Heidelberg 3.0 is if you know our history, we have had to fight for this organization. We have been twice destroyed by our own city in 91 and again in 99, and then we suffered 12 fires. So the idea of becoming part of Detroit's cultural fabric came in November of 2021 when the city of Detroit, after all these years, recognized the Heidelberg Project as part of the cultural fabric of the city of Detroit. So to me, that's another great indicator how 3.0 can really start to take off now. And obviously we want to build more. We want to bring in more artists, but we also need to build our staff. So support, financial support is really critical to our growth at this particular time. But that is how 3.0 is defined, is really now moving away from the vision, never really moving away, acknowledging, respecting it, but also gifting it to the community and letting it really become this community anchor.
Janine, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
We as Michiganders feel connected to this resource in a way that I think is really powerful.
Conservation starts with a caring, committed community.
For me, it's peaceful to have a relationship with the river.
Every single one of us has a role to make sure that those waterways stay safe and healthy, being careful about what goes down the storm drain.
Just even eliminating some of your single-use plastic makes a difference.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
The leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate. So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking. Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Welcome to the Michigan Megacast on your radio homes for the program 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. I'm Tyler Kieft. Find more information about the entire program, including all of our partnering TV, radio, and web outlets that join us every single day by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Megacast link, where you'll also find all of our full programs and each individual interview on demand as well. CivicCenterTV.com/Megacast. Joining us now is Laltsha Cunningham, the Financial Capability Supervisor at JVS Human Services and Kadima, joining us on the Megacast. Laltsha, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate having you on. As we all know, as time's gone on, life has gotten more expensive, especially for individuals, but especially for families. And so JVS and Kadima are partnering on Wednesday, March 30th. That's next week, Wednesday, at 1 p.m. for a special webinar, an interactive webinar entitled Parents and Paychecks. Can you tell us about that program and what people can expect to learn at that webinar that may be very helpful to them, especially in the financial times that we're in?
Yes, absolutely, Tyler. Well, first of all, let me talk a little bit about some of the increases. I just want to share some of the increases for things that we're going to be speaking about today. Gas has increased 38%. Used cars has increased 41.2%. Food has increased 7.9%, and apparel has increased 6.6%. And also rental rates have increased 16.2%, which is the highest in 16 years. So in putting all of those numbers together, inflation is up 7.5%, which is the highest that has been since 1982. And those are some very, very difficult percentages to really even think about as it relates to parents. And so all of those things take a huge factor on parents and their budgets. And that's why we entitled the program Parents and Paychecks, because we want to help parents really learn how to navigate through this process. We want to give them some tools and tips and resources, and we're going to also share some apps that you can download to really help you find the lowest prices on all of those items that I just talked about. It's bad enough that inflation affects individuals. When you go to speak about a family, and a lot of families are anywhere from 2 to 3 people in their family, and sometimes even more, it can take a really huge impact on your budget. So we wanted to give the community some tools, again, that they can really use to really help manage the rising costs. Unfortunately, in many cases, the paychecks aren't increasing, but the cost of living is.
We're joined by Laltsha Cunningham from JVS and Kadima. Their interactive webinar, Parents and Paychecks, next week, Wednesday, March 30th at 1 p.m. Register online by visiting jvshumanservices.org or by sending an email to financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org. That's financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org. That interactive webinar, March 30th at 1 p.m. That is in the middle of the workday.
It is.
And so if those that may be interested in this may not be able to attend because they're at work or they're dealing with picking their kids up or dropping them off at school or other activities, is there another way that people would be able to then interact with this webinar, either consume the information themselves, ask questions to the experts that are involved, and get involved in some other way after the fact?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the program will be recorded for playback. And so families and individuals as well can email us again at that financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org, and they can request a copy of the program. But also, too, we offer amazing programs outside of that. We, help families with money management, budgeting, credit, and housing, which is some of the programs that we offer in my department. We have one-on-one sessions, and we also can do group sessions as well. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity for families to really utilize a lot of the resources that we have. And once again, it will be available for playback. So if you're not able to make it, because we do understand that it is the middle of the day, please send us an email, give us a call, and we'll get the presentation over to you.
We're joined by Laltsha Cunningham, the Financial Capability Supervisor at JVS and Kadima, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. They will be holding that webinar, that Parents and Paychecks webinar, March 30th at 1 p.m. That is March 30th at 1 p.m. To register, send an email to financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org. That's financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org. Of course, inflation, as you mentioned, having an even greater impact now on the families. Raising children was already expensive. Inflation has been helping. Rising cost of living over the last 10 years, over the last 20 years, absolutely not helping. All those factors combined. And then these amounts don't even factor in the costs of then sending a kid to college, which could be a few years from now. It could be 10 to 15 years from now, or if parents are, or potential parents are planning to have a family, it could be 20 years from now. What should be? What is the suggestion of your organization and the experts that you're consulting with for this webinar for those parents, taking into mind that we don't know what the future has in hold, and these effects we're seeing financially, we have seen financially over the last 15 or 20 years, could have an even more significant effect in 15 to 20 years from now.
Absolutely. So one thing that I would definitely recommend is to really take a look at your savings plan. How much is your family saving, per paycheck? How much are your family saving per month or annually? That's going to be really titled a ticket to helping with these costs. And again, that's something that we can do. We have a lot of amazing programs as it relates to savings and helping you prepare for retirement and also prepare to send your kids out to college. So again, it all goes back to saving.
We're joined by Laltsha Cunningham from JVS and Kadima. Their interactive webinar for parents called Parents and Paychecks, aimed at helping Michigan parents from low to moderate incomes cope with the financial pressures of raising the child, plus with the current financial environment that we're in at this time, will be held next week, Wednesday, March 30th at 1 p.m. Wednesday, March 30th at 1 p.m. You can register online by email. Send an email to financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org, financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org in order to register. One of the hallmarks of this webinar that you mentioned are some of those helpful tools online or through apps or both that may be helpful to parents that are planning for the future or are planning currently and trying to pinch a few dollars here and there that could be very helpful in maintaining their family. Can you talk about some of those resources that are available or some of those different tactics that are available to help offset some of the costs of raising a child in the current times that we're in?
Yep. We're going to talk about, some gas buddy apps. We're going to talk about different ways that you can, reduce your food bill, and that comes from meal planning, and also doing some flip, which is, finding the best deals at your local grocery stores. There's just so much information that we have to give. I don't want to give it all away today because I want you all to join, but it's going to be an awesome webinar. It's really going to help parents learn how to reduce those costs. I want to be redundant here, but it's just so important, especially with the times that we're living in, just to try to cut as many costs as we can, just so we can, actually just live from day to day. Many families, unfortunately, live paycheck to paycheck, and when we experience inflation, it really, again, makes a huge impact on their budgets. And so we want to find a way to help them. We feel it's our responsibility as a agency to provide our community with the best resources that we can to help them navigate things such as inflation.
And this would also be helpful not only to the parents that currently have kids or currently raising kids of varying ages, but also to people that, as we mentioned before, are considering having children or may be in the middle of a pregnancy and soon will have their kids they're expecting. And that's even more important now, as research has shown that expenses can double, even triple within the first year after having a child. And currently, according to Investopedia, the average cost of rearing a child in 2022 estimated at $272,049. How can this online webinar be helpful to expecting parents or considering parents?
Because they're going to be able to use the same tips that we provide the parents now. You always want to plan for the future, so you want to know what cost to expect. And again, I'm going to go back to savings. Even if you're expecting now or you're thinking about having kids in the future, now was a great time to start saving. The number that you mentioned as it relates to raising a child right now, that's a pretty hefty number there. And so, but again, what's going to happen if you manage your money the right way, which is one thing that we also discuss in our workshops, is understanding managing your money, so that way you're able to save what you need to save to prepare for the future. It's always important to do that.
We're joined by Laltsha Cunningham, Financial Capability Supervisor at JVS Human Services, as well as Kadima. Again, that webinar, Parents and Paychecks, Wednesday, March 30th at 1 p.m. That's next week, Wednesday, at 1 p.m. Register financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org, financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org to register for that. And again, March 30th at 1 p.m. You can also send a message to that same email address if you would like more information on the online webinar and you're not able to attend, as they will be recording that, as Laltsha said earlier. So we've seen over the course of the pandemic, with the financial hardships that have been a cause of COVID-19, especially as it's persisted, there's been a number of government programs for individual businesses of varying sizes, for individuals themselves, that may be in some financial help for those with student loans and so on and so forth. Are there similar government programs for parents to help them financially if they are, of course, raising children, given the circumstances that we're in?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of resources that we offer, but we also refer out to our other nonprofit agencies as well that may be able to assist with some wraparound services and some food assistance. So give us a call, because we, again, have the resources that you need. They're available. We just need you to call and get them.
We're joined by Laltsha Cunningham from JVS and Kadima, joining us on the Megacast. More information on their website, jvshumanservices.org, for this webinar, as well as their other webinars on finance and on other issues that may be affecting your family or yourself individually. jvshumanservices.org. their interactive webinar, Parents and Paychecks, aimed at Michigan parents from low to moderate incomes coping with financial pressures of raising a child in today's age, will be Wednesday, March 30th, next week Wednesday, March 30th at 1 p.m. To register for the webinar, email financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org. That's an email to financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org in order to register for this event. So, Laltsha, in addition to this event, what are some other upcoming webinars that may be helpful to parents in either their approach to raising their kid in today's age, certainly for financial help and advice as well? There are other webinars that are coming up that people should be keeping an eye out for and considering joining?
Absolutely. Our next webinar is called Understanding Retirement. That's going to be in April, which is going to talk a lot about retiring, helping, parents save for, student, their students' college. And then next in May, we're going to be kicking off another series called Families and Inflation. And we're going to take a deeper dive into some of the things that really impact families and their budgets. So they can always check JVSHumanServices.org website for those webinars. And also don't forget to follow us on Facebook. We have a lot of information there as well. And our web series will also be listed there. Right now, we're still doing a lot virtual, but we are incorporating some more in-person classes coming up. But right now, again, they're still virtual, so you can log in anywhere and just join the webinar, listen to the information, take in some of the tools and tips that we'll be providing. But also, if you need something more than that, we are here. We are available to help. You can reach out to us. We work with individuals. We do, again, group workshops, and we can talk to you about any of your financial needs that you may need assistance with.
Laltsha, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much again for having me.
Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Yeah, you as well.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So more information on the website, jvshumanservices.org, where you can learn more about Parents and Paychecks, their interactive webinar happening next week, Wednesday, March 30th at 1 p.m. Get in contact with JVS Human Services and Kadima for their other interactive webinars and their other services as well that are ongoing throughout the year. Learn more information about all that by visiting jvshumanservices.org to register for that event. That is March 30th. That's next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Parents and Paychecks, an interactive webinar. Send an email to financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org. That's financialhelp@jvshumanservices.org. We're going to take a break here on the Michigan Megacast. On the other side, a couple of great interviews coming up. In a few minutes, we'll speak with Dr. Jamie Tawil from Grand River Medical Associates, our favorite doctor here on the Michigan Megacast and the Oakland County Megacast, about the state of the COVID-19 pandemic with case numbers dropping and a new variant that's popped up in Europe, what we should be keeping in mind about that, some basic information on that variant, as well as the ongoing shortage or impending shortage potentially of primary care providers, why that is the case, where these primary care providers that are currently in medicine are going, and what can be done to help recruit the next generation of primary care providers. We'll speak to Dr. Jamie Tawil about that, and then at 11:20, a very special guest, U.S. Senator Gary Peters, will join us by the phone to talk about Ukraine, to talk about other issues at the federal level. That will happen at 11:20. Both of those interviews coming up next. This is the Michigan Megacast.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council,
we work together to protect water resources for everyone.
Most of the pollution entering our rivers is carried by rainwater that runs off roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
A rain garden helps catch stormwater runoff.
Rain gardens and their plants help dirty runoff soak into the ground.
You can do your part to help keep our water clean.
Learn about rain gardens and native plants.
So consider a rain garden in your home landscaping.
Catch the runoff with a rain garden.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Joining in the program now once again is Dr. Jamie Tawil, internal medicine specialist at Grand River Medical Associates. Dr. Tawil, good to see you again.
How are you doing today?
Doing all right. How are you, doctor?
I'm getting there. It's been a long year. So
yes.
I think we're finally slowing down a bit.
Yeah, it's been a long year. It's been a long couple of days these last couple of hours. So we're chugging along, however. So parts of Europe are struggling with a new variant with COVID-19, the BA2 variant of COVID. There's been some reported cases in Michigan. What do you know so far about this variant? And is there any information about it that people should be keeping a close eye on? Any differences or similarities to Omicron or to Delta or the variants before that?
So the BA2 variant, from what I understand, is a newer variant that's basically a step up from the Omicron variant. It's got a couple of things. Every time you have a new variant, you want to ask yourself a few questions. Is it going to be as dangerous as the previous variant? Is it going to be more transmissible? Is it going to be, are we going to be protected if we've had our vaccines? And the answer to those are still kind of in the mix. We're still kind of learning a lot about this variant, but so far what we know is that, yes, it is easily transmissible, however, not as dangerous. In other words, people that do experience the BA2 variant are going to have a little bit more of a milder disease. It's going to be a lot like Omicron, where people were having just, mild symptoms. Even people that were vaccinated, we're also finding that people that have been vaccinated have been really well covered in terms of having a much more milder disease. So we're not having these flurry of hospitalizations that we were having. However, it is more transmissible. So while it is more transmissible, that means there's a larger population that's being exposed, a larger population is getting sick. So there's still going to be a little bit of a spike in hospitalization, just nowhere near the fraction of people getting hospitalized as we were seeing previously.
We're joined by Dr. Jamie Tawil, the internal medicine specialist over at Grand River Medical Associates, joining us on the Megacast. Dr. Tawil, despite the necessity of primary care providers, there are too few of them, and trends are suggesting there'll be even fewer as current practitioners age and medical students with loans are going to more lucrative specialties than being a primary care provider. As a primary care physician yourself, can you talk about the shortage, how it affects communities, how it affects primary care providers too, that there does seem to be a reduction of the total number because of these factors that are at play in the medical community?
Yeah, I could talk about this for about 3 weeks. I have a lot. So, yes, there's always going to be a shortage of primary care because primary care is the person you want to see. And it can affect a lot of things. I mean, in Michigan specifically, we're in the Metro Detroit area, so we do have a lot of primary care physicians that are going to basically be available. But in upper northern parts of Michigan, or a little bit more less dense populated areas of Michigan, there's going to be fewer primary care, and that's going to continue to get worse as time goes on. Yes, people that are in med school are always going to chase. There's a fraction of people that want to take the more difficult to get residencies that are going to be, and I don't want to say that like that, but they're going to be residencies that are going to be a little bit more lucrative. So that tends to always be the big, with just the amount of student loans that people come out of med school with, it's no surprise that they're going to go for specialties that are going to just basically pay more. Primary care tends to be a little bit lower on that end. Now, it's not terrible by any means. We're doing fine, but at the same time, why choose a career if you have options to go better? But also lifestyle and things play into effect. It affects a lot of things. It really impacts the ability for patients to get good care. Primary care is just that, primary. We're the first people you see. So if there's a shortage of primary care physicians, what are you going to do? There's going to be a lot more people going to urgent care. And when you go to urgent cares, you're not really getting standard of care. What I mean by that, when I say that, is you're not having a lot of follow-up. I have patients that have been patients of mine for years. I know them extensively. I know a lot of the issues that they deal with. I know how all their issues interact with one another. I'm able to basically treat them a little bit more completely, so to speak. I talk to all of the specialists that they're involved with. I read I'm coordinating care among different physicians and doing a lot of things to that effect. It's kind of difficult to do if you're in urgent care or an emergency room. And that's what people tend to start doing if they don't have primary care available, or worse yet, they don't even see a primary care physician. They're not getting their standard, age-appropriate screening for risk things such as colonoscopy, screening for heart disease, all of that. And that can lead to bigger problems down the road. And, studies have shown that people that go to primary care physicians with routine regularity tend to do better, less money in healthcare. They tend to be less ill in the long run. They're treated more appropriately, and they're catching things that could have otherwise been a bit more dangerous down the road. How it also impacts, I told you I had a lot to say, how it also impacts us as physicians, there's just a lot more people to be seen, which can be very difficult. You now have waiting rooms that are full of patients, wait times get longer, doctors are getting overwhelmed, the volume starts to go up, and it can become very difficult to start to give people very distinct one-on-one care when you have a waiting room full of people that are anxious to be seen. So it's not good all around, and hopefully that can be turned around.
So Dr. Tawil, why did you become a primary care physician? And then beyond that too, what can be done in the medical community among primary care physicians and those in medical schools that are consulting with these future medical professionals to convince people or attract people is probably a better terminology to use to being a primary care physician?
That's a big question to answer.
Yes.
So why did I go into primary care? I went into primary care for a multitude of reasons. My sister actually married a physician when I was 11. She's a lot older than I am. She married a primary care physician, and I was always enamored by him and felt that I loved the way he handled business. I loved the way people always kind of flocked to him at family gatherings and asked him questions. And he's always kind of been a hero of mine. So I definitely like that. But more importantly, I also just like the interaction that I have with patients. I have patients that I've seen for years that are super close to me that I consider family. And that's the aspect of medicine that I like. I like the relationships that I build with patients. Other people aren't so into that. And I understand that. Certainly, they just want to deal with the medical complexity. Surgeons want to deal with issues that are dealing with surgery. Not to say they don't love their patients and don't build amazing relationships. They absolutely do. It's just a little bit more complex, and it's a little bit more to their liking, and they like doing procedures. Our cardiologists they have amazing relationships with their patients, but they like to narrow it down to one specific issue, which is the heart, and then they go from there. It's tough to try and encourage people to go into primary care specifically because that may not be what people want to do. My vision of a family doctor growing up, when I said I wanted to be a doctor as a kid, I always just envisioned the doctor that I saw, which was my primary care physician, and then my sister married my brother-in-law, and it goes from there. Other people, they're more interested in more complex, and when I say complex, I mean procedure-based type of medicine that's a little bit more, I don't know how to put, just more, rewarding for people that like to do those types of things. If you were trying to encourage people to go into primary care medicine, I think it's going to be tough. There's primary care physicians, we do a lot of the paperwork of medicine. We do a lot of filling out forms, disability stuff. We do a lot of the, family medical leave paperwork. We do a lot of insurance paperwork, handicap plates. It just goes on. So that can be a major turnoff to people that are interested in medicine because they just want to do medicine. I often joke that sometimes I feel like I practice more law than I do medicine. As a primary care physician, sometimes I feel like I'm the therapist. I talk to patients about very personal things, and some people just aren't into that aspect of medicine, and that's okay. But if you want to make things a little bit more better for people to go into medicine, I think to reduce the burden of paperwork that they deal with, as well as give them more incentives. Increases in pay certainly would always be a benefit, as well as potentially offering them better student debt forgiveness, because student debt becomes a big major factor into what they're deciding. It can often be the case. So that's a very small answer that needs to be this big. So
We're joined by Dr. Jamie Tawil, internal medicine specialist at Grand River Medical Associates, joining us on the Michigan Megacast. Dr. Tawil, another minute with you before we'll say goodbye today. At this time, anything else that would be important for Michiganders to be considering in their own personal health and in their relationship with their primary care provider at this time before we let you go today?
Yes, go see them. I joke with my patients. When do I have to come in? And I always say, look, I'd like to at least see you as often as a dentist. What I want to see at least twice a year if you're healthy. If you have other problems, I want to see you more often. COVID is starting to get a little bit less on the forefront. So I would encourage people to definitely try to see their physicians a little bit more, catch up on all the stuff that they've been missing. An ounce of prevention is definitely worth a pound of cure. So I want to make sure that people are getting to see their doctors so that they can catch problems before they become big ones. And we're catching up to that backlog. And the guys that are in primary care love to be primary care docs, and they enjoy their patients tremendously. We do want to see you. So I encourage people to do that. And that's about it.
Dr. Tawil, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me as always. I appreciate it.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary. And if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
Joining us now is a U.S. Senator representing the state of Michigan, Gary Peters, joining us on the Megacast. He was on hand earlier on this week as Congress was addressed by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky relating to the Russian war in Ukraine. Senator Peters, thank you for being with us today.
Well, pleasure to be with you again.
Appreciate having you on. So for you and for your colleagues in both chambers of Congress at the federal level, what was it like for you yesterday to hear the words from the front lines from President Zelensky of Ukraine as his country deals now for several weeks at this point with an invasion from Russia?
Well, certainly, we are all impressed and inspired by President Zelensky, his courage, his leadership in the face of this onslaught from Mr. Putin and this unprovoked illegal attack on the country. And certainly, we are all just so troubled to see the images of what is happening in Ukraine. The video that the president played was particularly powerful. To show the extent of the devastation that the Russian military is doing to the country of Ukraine, and certainly our hearts go out to the Ukrainian people, and it just really strengthened our resolve to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to help the Ukrainian people in the form of military assistance to help the Ukrainian military fight against this unprovoked attack by the Russian military and Mr. Putin, as well as provide humanitarian aid for folks both in Ukraine as well as the refugees that are now flowing across the borders to get away from the war.
So, Senator, we've heard the calls from Ukrainians, including from government officials such as President Zelensky, asking for NATO and for Western allies in and outside of NATO to conduct a no-fly zone over Ukraine. And there's where this balancing act comes into play. Because on the one hand, as you said, we in the U.S. want to help our friends over in Ukraine. This is an unprovoked invasion by a world superpower that is taking a harrowing effect on the citizens of Ukraine. But at the same time, you're playing a balancing act there too, because you want to provide as much assistance as possible to this nation that is under attack without further provoking a world superpower and escalating this conflict. Where does that balance come into play in the negotiations internally in the U.S. government from that standpoint, and what can be provided to the Ukrainians without then provoking President Putin, who clearly is not all there and is willing to escalate this to significant levels if he is provoked?
Well, and that's an incredibly important question, and you're right about Mr. Putin. We have to. He's not acting rationally in my mind. Maybe in his mind somehow it's rational, but to do what he's doing simply makes no sense. We have to remember that Russia does possess nuclear weapons, and they have tactical nuclear weapons that they believe that they can use in Europe. So it is a dangerous situation. Folks, certainly President Zelensky is asking for a no-fly zone, and if I were him, I'd be asking for everything that I could to help my country. But we do have to weigh the potential impact of escalation involving NATO troops on the ground in a war that could spin into very dangerous proportions. I think it's important for folks to realize that if we put a no-fly zone, that brings us into combat, and we're relying on our advice from our military leaders, but in order to put together a no-fly zone, the first thing you have to do is go in and take out anti-aircraft systems that the Russians have in place that would put those aircraft in jeopardy. And when you attack those systems, you will be killing Russian soldiers that are manning those sites. Those sites will fire back on our aircraft, and according to our military experts, we will lose American pilots in that operation. And then once that occurs, if there's any incursion from Russian aircraft, you have to shoot them down, and you will be in air combat. And we can do it. We can have a no-fly zone, but folks have to realize that there will be casualties, both Russian and American casualties in actual combat, and that is clearly a significant escalation.
We've heard some rumors, too, Senator Peters, that the Russian government may be considering the use of biological weapons, and that they have been beginning propaganda efforts to state that Ukraine may or may not be producing biological weapons as an excuse. And we've seen President Putin do this, where he kind of casts blame on an adversary, so to speak, and then commits that exact act. That being said, biological weapons, obviously egregious. It's something that the United States has in the past, in other conflicts worldwide, said that is a sort of red line where there will be some intervention, at least in the form of sanctions in that regard. But in this conflict, I think there's quite a lot of curiosity from the American public and from the worldwide community as well. Are there any red lines in this conflict that Russia could cross that would then spark or require, is probably a better word to use, require further effort from the U.S. and from NATO allies in order to protect the security of the entire world?
Well, certainly we have responsibilities with NATO, and if any NATO territory is breached by the Russian military, our treaty obligations as part of NATO would require a response of the entire alliance against Russia. So I think Mr. Putin knows that. Hopefully that is a major deterrent for him to do that. But certainly that is a line to be crossed. And we had a recent attack near the Polish border that killed a number of Ukrainian service members and civilians, but it was very close. But if you have an attack on territory of a country that's part of NATO, that would be clearly a red line.
We're joined by U.S. Senator Gary Peters on the Michigan Megacast. Senator, I know that we're short on time, so before I let you go, I do want to ask you, you and a fellow Michigan Senator, Debbie Stabenow, recently introduced the Help Education After Loss, or HEAL Act, to address mental health in our schools, inspired by the wake of the tragic shooting at Oxford High School in November of 2021. Can you tell us a little bit about this act and the ways that it may help students in Michigan and all throughout the U.S.?
Well, this legislation is to provide mental health services to students and staff who are in a school that has been impacted by a mass shooting or some other type of traumatic event, and provide mental health services immediately to those individuals in that school. So it'll provide counselors, psychologists, social workers, others that can be there to help folks immediately in the aftermath of a tragedy. It has been estimated that roughly a third of folks who witness a mass shooting develop PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorders, and or other kinds of acute stress disorders. It's critically important to help these individuals with mental health services as quickly as you can after an event. This legislation awards federal grants to local districts and schools. I've worked closely with the Oakland schools as well as national associations of social workers and other professionals to provide the resources necessary to help these individuals. The legislation will also study the impacts on student mental health. We need to know more about how these violent and traumatic events impact students, and so that we can better prepare should we have another horrific event like we saw in Oxford and develop best practices. And it depends. If you look around the country, some schools simply don't have any type of mental health services or counseling available for their students. And if they get if they have a violent attack or a mass shooting occur in one of those schools, those students are in a particularly vulnerable position, and we want to make sure we're helping victims and folks who witnessed these attacks as quickly and as effectively as possible.
Senator Peters, thank you very much for joining us.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here
for you.
Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation.
Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
As partners, working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is a source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
Welcome back to the Michigan Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. To learn more about the program by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on Megacast, or typing in civiccentertv.com/Megacast, where you'll learn information about all of our partnering TV, radio, and web outlets that join us every day, and find all of our programs, each full episode, and every interview on demand. civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Joining us now is Kelly Rockwell, the co-founder and president of My Work Matters, one of 290 charities and nonprofits supported by by Share Detroit. It was founded in 2018, and she joins us now on the Megacast. Kelly, thanks for being with us.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. It's really appreciated.
Yeah, good to have you with us. Can you tell us first about My Work Matters and the history of this organization?
Sure. So My Work Matters was started and founded in 2018 by a group of parents, advocates, and caregivers of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Our mission is to increase employment opportunities for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So it took us about a year after we founded the organization to get it off the ground. But we did start with the full intention of opening a coffee shop that would employ people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So after about a year in 2019, at the very end of 2019 in December, Anastasia and Katie's coffee shop was opened as our first inclusive business and first employment program. So we had a ribbon cutting in January of 2020, which, as we know now, wasn't really the best timing to open a small business with a global pandemic hitting just a few weeks later. But our motto at the coffee shop is "We are good and strong," and so we kind of are a group that's used to challenges and adversity, and we're still here and growing and have some new programs in development.
So can you give us some insight into the job market for those with developmental disabilities? Because it's tough for people to seek employment on any given day. But for those with developmental disabilities, they have multiple hurdles to overcome in the employment process. Can you tell us about what those are and just how tough it can be for somebody with a disability to find work?
Sure. So those statistics aren't great. It's an over 80% unemployment rate for people with developmental disabilities or disabilities in general in Michigan, and that's a statistic that kind of stands throughout the country. But the challenges are mostly related to opportunity and perception that people that have IDD, or short for intellectual and developmental disabilities, can't do a job. There's other barriers such as transportation. A lot of people in this community don't drive. So if there's not community transportation available, or if they don't have a caregiver that can help with transportation, that can be a barrier. The lack of expectations, low expectations. So some of the data that's been studied shows that families of children in school-age environments aren't getting information about the types of employment that can help people with disabilities, and there's a lack of role models for those youth and young adults. So that that leads to not a lot of people pursuing employment, in addition to those that do want it not having the opportunities. So for every person to have a job, you need an employee and an employer, kind of like a marriage. You need both to make that work. Another issue that is not too widely known is that in Michigan, we are still a state that allows for sub-minimum wage, which means that people with disabilities in some circumstances, by applying for a waiver, can be paid by an employer less than minimum wage. So there's a substantial number of workers in Michigan that with disabilities that are paid far below minimum wage and are also in work environments that are segregated settings. So all of those things are barriers, as well as some specific health conditions that go along with disabilities, and not understanding how to approach employers to have accommodations made around those with disabilities.
So these are a lot of gaps to close or to bridge in order for these individuals with developmental disabilities just to have an opportunity at a job, let alone maintain that job for a significant period of time. How does your organization then help those individuals not only get their foot in the door, but remain on the job going forward?
So we do that through grassroots advocacy, education, connecting individuals to resources that could help and also by directly employing people with IDD at our business, Anastasia and Katie's coffee shop. So if an employee is having trouble sustaining employment, there are specific resources out there that can help with that in organizations as well as ours. There's education around types of accommodations that can be made to help people keep jobs as well.
We're joined by Kelly Rockwell, the co-founder and president of My Work Matters. Joining us on the Megacast, this is one of 290 Share Detroit supported charities and nonprofits. Learn more information on Share Detroit's website, sharedetroit.org, by searching in their charities and nonprofits catalog for My Work Matters, M-I Work Matters, My Work Matters under that for more information and to visit their website. Can you tell us about your Employee Ambassadors program? Because this is really interesting and it helps not only those individuals that have already been helped by your organization or may have received some help from a similar operation, but also to help other people as well and advocate for their fellow people with developmental disabilities.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a program I'm really, really proud of and really excited about. So the Employment Ambassadors are first and foremost a group of self-advocates. They're all young adults that have intellectual and developmental disabilities, but along with that, they either do have currently have jobs or they have had employment experience already. So they go out to local businesses and talk to business leaders by giving a presentation that includes information about themselves as an individual with a disability. Might include information specific to their disability. It includes information on their experience as a worker with a disability and what that's like and what things may help them. And then it also talks a little bit about the merits of hiring somebody that does have a disability and what the advantages are to an employer and what things can be done to make it easier and to bridge that gap. So the ambassadors did do quite a few presentations in person prior to the pandemic. And then we kind of regrouped, and just most recently, they have done a presentation at DTE Energy to a group of 50 people within their employee resource groups. So they were able to take their presentation that they had rehearsed all along, that they've delivered many times, and rework that and deliver it in a virtual format, which also provided quite a few additional skills in terms of video meetings and technology. So it's also worth knowing that the ambassadors are paid by My Work Matters for each presentation that they give. So not only are they, an advocate, acting as advocates and role models, but they are earning money while they're doing that.
We're joined by Kelly Rockwell, the co-founder and the president of My Work Matters, joining us on the Megacast, one of 290 charities and nonprofits supported on the Share Detroit platform at sharedetroit.org. Go there for more information, sharedetroit.org. And so we talked a lot about the relationship between My Work Matters and individuals with developmental disabilities in training opportunities and bridging some of those gaps in the job market and in advocacy. What about the relationships that your organization has with businesses themselves of varying sizes? Can you talk to those relationships and how that helps your organization provide the service that it does here in Michigan?
Well, yeah, we're able to do that in a number of ways. The coffee shop gives us an avenue to connect with small businesses within the area of Livonia through we can provide boxed lunches, we can provide catered coffee, things like that. And then we are forming partnerships with large and small businesses. Speaking of the ambassador program that we just talked about, after one of the presentations that was done in the summer of 2021, one of the groups that's a very large business in Novi, Michigan, did hire one of the ambassadors to go work at their corporate offices. They had to reopen their offices after being closed for COVID for a time, so the ambassador was employed there. So they became our first employer partner. We are seeking more employers that would like to partner with us so that we can assist both the employee and the employer in hiring people with disabilities. Aside from that, we are working with corporate sponsors to sponsor our program, and just mostly what we're trying to do is get the information out there about all of the advantages that exist for employers to hire somebody, and with the right resources, we can reach both more employers and more potential job seekers.
You can learn more information in a couple of places. myworkmatters.org. That's myworkmatters.org. For more information directly from My Work Matters, or by visiting sharedetroit.org, clicking on their Find Nonprofits link at the top of their homepage, and then searching MI Work Matters for My Work Matters. We're joined by the co-founder and the president of My Work Matters, Kelly Rockwell, on the Michigan Megacast. Kelly, just another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else at this time that would be interesting for our audience to know, or if they'd like to get involved with My Work Matters, either on a volunteer basis, in an advocacy basis with their business, or they have an individual in their family or themselves are an individual with a developmental disability, how can they get involved?
Sure. So we do have a number of upcoming programs, that we're able to continue the work that we started before the pandemic. So we are developing a vocational training program at the coffee shop. We are doing a number of social outreach programs that will be hosted at the coffee shop and in the outdoor space that we have there. So if people want to get involved, we need volunteers to help with those upcoming programs. People can donate. That always helps us to get the resources that we need to keep that going. People can visit the coffee shop in Livonia as a customer. That helps us out a lot, and also partner with us to increase employment opportunities if you're an employer, big or small, and sponsor programs. All those things are really things that will help us quite a bit.
Kelly, we thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about My Work Matters and the services you provide, but also the advocacy work of your organization as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Appreciate your time. More information on the website, myworkmatters.org. That's myworkmatters.org, or by visiting sharedetroit.org, clicking on their Find Nonprofits link, which will allow you to search for all 290 of their charities and nonprofits that are supported on the Share Detroit platform, including My Work Matters. Go to sharedetroit.org, click on Find Nonprofits, type in their search function MI Work Matters, and get in contact with My Work Matters and help them in a number of different ways. That is going to do it for this week's editions of the Michigan Megacast and the Oakland County Megacast. I want to thank everybody that joined us on today's edition of the program. Of course, Kelly Rockwell from My Work Matters, U.S. Senator Gary Peters, Dr. Jamie Tawil from Grand River Medical Associates as well, Laltsha Cunningham from JVS Human Services, all in the Michigan Megacast Hour. And then for those that joined us on the Oakland County Megacast, Craig Bryson from the Road Commission for Oakland County, and Janine Whitfield from the Heidelberg Project in downtown Detroit. Find all these interviews by sometime mid to late afternoon today on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where we post these every day, as well as our full episodes. If you're just tuning in and you want the full 2-hour experience of the Michigan Megacast and the Oakland County Megacast, those will be on our website on demand anytime. You can also view us in our replays on Civic Center TV, on Lakes FM, as well as live tape on Orion Neighborhood Television. Again, all of that information on our website, civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you'll also find links to each and every one of our partnering TV, radio, and web outlets, so you can learn more information, follow their other original and imported programming over the 22 hours of the day, Monday through Friday, that they're not with us, as well as on the weekends as well. civiccentertv.com/megacast. I encourage you also to go to our coronavirus page to keep up to date on information regarding COVID-19 from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division, as well as our top stories making headlines on the COVID front and otherwise all across the Great Lakes state. civiccentertv.com/coronavirus for all those, for all that information, and to keep up to date on everything that's happening here in the state of Michigan. Big thank you to our crew who makes this program possible each and every day, Monday through Friday, live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Our technical director, Calvin Brown, with me in the studio here each and every day for the 2-hour marathon. That is the Oakland County and Michigan Megacasts. Jared Clark, our Zoom producer, out of the office of My Michigan TV in Troy, Michigan, helping all of our guests get navigated through Zoom and get on the program with us. Larry Nyland, the king of television, our producer, getting everybody booked, helping them prepare to be on the program and helping us prepare to have meaningful conversations with them. That is going to end. Manny Mestian also out at Master Control. That is it for this week's editions of the Megacast. We'll return Monday at 10 a.m.